One night, at 2:43 am, Bean assassin Jack, killer, Bean is having problems sleeping due to several gangsters holding a loud party in a nearby warehouse. He calls their leader to turn down the music. But he refuses, so Killer Bean resorts to killing all the gangsters. Their leader is later revealed to be the nephew of Italian crime boss and drug lord Cappuccino. Shortly after, a police investigation led by Detective Cromwell occurs at the warehouse, which is known to be owned by Cappuccino. Wagon, a lieutenant and hitman who sells weapons for Cappuccino, arrives at the warehouse, discovering the massacre, and leaves after being briefly questioned by Cromwell. That morning, Killer Bean is stopped from assassinating Cromwell, having seen him on the news by a call from his boss, who warns him the warehouse shooting was reckless, and that only the target should be killed. Killer Bean assures him that the mission will succeed. In a Chinese restaurant, an assassin named Jet Bean receives a call from his boss sending him on a mission in Beantown. The restaurant owner then forces him to pay the bills he had not paid for several months, but he refuses and leaves after attacking the chef, who was told by the owner that Jet Bean insulted his food. At the drug headquarters, Cappuccino holds a meeting with his lieutenants, knocking two of them out the window when they annoy him. Before Wagon appears and informs him of the warehouse shooting and his nephew's death, so Cappuccino sends Wagon to kill Killer Bean. Meanwhile, Detective Cromwell analyzes the evidence at the warehouse and finds Killer Bean's name on the bullets, before locating another one of Cappuccino's warehouse, just as Killer Bean arrives there to conduct another attack. Killer Bean finds the warehouse to be empty, but he finds a note reading, "Shadow Bean, you are too late." Suddenly, a high-caliber bullet strikes the ground just beside Killer Bean. Killer Bean sees that Wagon had shot at him from a nearby building with his sniper rifle, and Killer Bean and Wagon exchange fire for some moments. The battle ends after a bullet shot by Killer Bean strikes Wagon's sniper rifle, disabling its scope. Disarmed, Wagon flees the scene unscathed. Shortly after, Killer Bean is found in a bar across the street by Cromwell, who suggests working together to bring Cappuccino down, but Killer Bean refuses. Before he leaves, Cromwell confronts him after finding a note Killer Bean found earlier referencing the Shadow Beans, but Killer Bean throws him into the ground and leaves. After that, Cromwell calls his friend Harry, a police intelligence officer, who reveals the Shadow Beans were special assassins working for the Shadow Agency, a private organization that carried out secret government operations, but presumably disbanded years ago. That night, Killer Bean arrives at a third warehouse owned by Cappuccino, and kills both the gangsters he finds there and several mercenaries hired by Wagon to kill him, but is ultimately knocked out by an explosion. He awakens tied up to a chair, being interrogated by Cappuccino as to why he is trying to kill him. After breaking free, Killer Bean reveals that he is not after Cappuccino, but rather after Wagon. During the standoff, Wagon revealed himself to be a former Shadow Bean code-named Dark Bean, who betrayed the Shadow Agency and stole their database. In response to Killer Bean's accusations, Dark Bean reveals the agency had degenerated into simply guns for hire, and that he chose to work for Cappuccino instead, so that he could use his knowledge on the gun trade to continue fighting crime, independent from the corrupt agency. Killer Bean can't bring himself to believe Dark Bean, and ultimately kills him, not before he warns him that the agency will now come after him as well. Detective Cromwell, who witnessed the entire ordeal from afar, arrives with police reinforcements to confront Killer Bean. After trying to pull out a big fight, Killer Bean allows himself to be arrested, believing that only the police can protect him from the agency. Shortly after, Jet Bean, who has been sent by the Shadow Agency to kill Killer Bean, arrives at the warehouse and learns from a police officer that he was arrested. Jet Bean then allows himself to be arrested by assaulting an officer who mocked his Asian accent. and proceeds to kill everyone at the police station standing in his way to Killer Bean, save for Cromwell, who left earlier. Killer Bean tells Jet Bean that the agency is only using them, but he doesn't believe him. After a final fight, Killer Bean prevails over Jet Bean, mortally shooting him. As he leaves, Killer Bean is called by his boss, who tells him to come in so they can talk things over. He replies that he will come in, but it won't be for talking, and drives off with a police van full of weapons.